I love the name Smogon Lore for this. Yeah, this is just going to start with me congratulating myself. Because, number one, I think lore is a hilarious word, and it's made its way into my daily vocabulary. To great effect, I think. Like, don't tell me about your day. Tell me about the lore of the past 12 hours. Makes the everyday seem a lot more fun. It's like, and then I went to the grocery store. Fascinating. And finding beauty in the everyday is very important. So, yeah, there is your life lesson for today. Anyway, before we get into the lore, I would like to encourage those of you who are not regular False Swipe Gaming viewers to go check out the recent video on Noctowl. For those who don't know, I write for False Swipe. And whenever there's a Pokemon which is clearly just terrible, then generally we turn it into a bit of a joke. It dates back to like Ledian or something. Because, how interesting is it really to hear different ways of, oh, and then it was terrible again, shocking no one because it's stats and typing, and Game Freak is sadistic and gave Charizard 2 Mega Evolutions, but we couldn't even buff Ledian a little bit, or whatever it is. That's not very interesting. And generally, they become more goofy, like, and then Ledian or whatever rose into Ubers and started beating the shit out of Mewtwo because that was hilarious. Sometimes it's more fun to get creative with that. And for the Noctowl video, I don't know how this idea came to me. I guess I've been watching a lot of film noir recently, and I decided to, Smogon Noir. And I decided to write a noir story. War story? Amazing. A noir story for Noctowl, as opposed to, the usual, and then it got, 500 special attack and a special Z move, so it destroyed everything and it was all worth it. Nothing like that. In fact, the polar opposite of that. It makes fun of that. Because the reality, it's a lot more grimy, kid. So, yeah, go check that out. I do think it's a genuinely good story. I'm going to try and write a fuller version of it. If you just take out like the Pokemon elements, it's a great human story. I mean, it's based on a lot of noir tropes, but and it does lean pretty heavily into that kind of stuff. But I think it's genuinely good. It has a strong through line and goes to some interesting places. I also borrowed some stuff from non-noirs. See if you can spot it. The hint is that I have recommended the movie, which this little plot occurrence is famous for. The movie which made this plot occurrence a more recognizable one is something that I've recommended in the recent past on this channel. Yeah, the lore of my day is that I've been at it since the morning, and I'm tired, and thus my usual point of pride in the English language is starting to slip. Even that could have been phrased a lot more elegantly, but I am tired and in a rush, so let us continue and check out Noctowl's Tale of Woe, based on my favorite noir ever, Kiss Me Deadly. So, the lore. For those of you who have looked at the screen, then you are wondering, what are these forum posts from July 1st, 2011 doing here? And for those who don't have me, on the screen and have me in another tab or in your car or whatever, then don't worry, because this is not a visually intensive video. So, on the surface, this just looks like a standard tournament exchange. It's the World Cup of Pokemon, the first one in Gen 5. Black and White 1, and so it's the qualifying stage, round 1. So there's not really a lot of drama yet. Well, relatively. I mean, most of it is just people bitching about Thundurus Incarnate and Sandrush, Excadrill, Rock Slide, flinch my Gliscor. Yeah, it didn't have Iron Head back then. Deoxys Speed. Rain. A million things, right? So it was that. And right before this, let me see if I can remember without scrolling up. It was Team Asia's Captain Mop, aka Aeroblactyl, who we're going to see some forum posts from in this video. Yeah, it's a great username. I agree. That's sarcasm for yeah, just in case. That is a username that would probably not be allowed today. For, good reason. I'm not disputing that. Just in case it sounded like, oh, everyone's so sensitive now. Why can't we? That is very much not the case. So, yeah, Mop was his more standard AKA. And it stood for Master of Pokemon, because I guess he registered it before anyone else thought to. So, yeah, he had gotten banned. He was famous for shady activities. And in this World Cup, he was caught asking a player on another team, I think it was Pidge, for the teams of their opponents in their shared group stages. And this was before public replays, public games, or anything. Matter of fact, part of the reason that games and tournaments like this became mandatory to make public was because of a kind of imbalance of information. Like, oh, well, my friend is on that team, so I'll just get the log from them, and then they don't know that I know their team. That gives me an advantage. And this was an example of it. So Mop had just been punished for that. But that brings us to this series of occurrences, which were just that was just like a fairly standard case of cheating, right? Like it's not overly elaborate. It's just, hey, let me get an edge. But what we're about to delve into is a particularly bizarre series of events. So it starts with this pair of GG posts where or win-loss reporting posts. People used to report their losses on the forums, actually. Nowadays, you don't see that at all. It used to be either 1 GG or lost GG. Now you only see the 1 GG. And the 1 GG as in WON, but also ONE. Amazing. So, yeah, here you have Ladybug saying Philip got the points over me, and Philip confirming, and saying that Ladybug is a class act. So for those who are not familiar with these players, these were two of the biggest of their day. Ladybug was famous for bringing absolutely insane stuff and making it work at a tournament level. And Phil was no slouch in the creative department himself. He was also, really pushing boundaries, and both of them were just incredibly solid, successful players. So people were pretty excited to see them paired early in the tournament. And then Philip won, and Ladybug is a class act. Okay, what's that about? Well, generally, it was not unheard of back then for if you got a really nasty crit or a miss or something in the first 3 turns, then if you were really going to be nice, you liked your opponent and you just didn't want to win that way, because honor, believe it or not, was a big thing. Smaller community. I don't want to win because I got lucky. I want people to know I won because I played better. That kind of thing. Then it was not unheard of to offer a restart. Hey, let's do it again, and this time you can, not get crit on turn 2 or something, right? So you would think, oh, is it something like that? No, it's not. Well, we'll get to what actually happened, because as I recall, it was in another post. So we're going to skim through a lot of other posts before we get to the good stuff. Yeah, here's a post by Bluin talking about saving logs. Yeah. Oh, and it was known, but actually got caught. Not surprising. There is Mop himself. I'll leave a link to this thread if you really want to read through all the ancient lore. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Speaking of ancient lore, people were really upset with Team Mexico in this tournament because they were just lucking the daylights out of everyone. Yeah. Okay, here we get to the good stuff. So, here's a post by Goofball, and I know it cuts off on the screen, but that's because adjusting the dimensions for the Smogon forums is unbearable, so don't worry, I'll read it out loud. So, Goofball is also one of the most elite players of all time. Highly decorated, very influential in the early generations. I've even mentioned him in my video on Superman in Advance OU, because he was very well known for his own version of Superman that he loved spamming in tournaments. and he brought it against G80, aka Gene, who we're also going to see in this thread. And they had an epic battle with two Superman teams. So yeah, he's a legend of the game. And Ladybug, Mop, Goofball, and G80 or Gene are all on Team Asia, right? So that's important to know. And Ladybug on Team Asia against Philip 7086 of US West. Okay, so here he is. You see Goof of Team Asia. Since, generally when your teammate loses, it's like, oh, Ladybug lost. Oh, well, that sucks, right? It's like, oh, well, how did he lose? Well, that's where it gets interesting. So, if you're just following along on the forums and you didn't see the game when it happened on Pokemon Online, or you haven't been following on IRC or something, then, yeah, because IRC back then, no Discord, then you would be keeping up with this through the forum thread. And you're like, okay, so class act, oh, is there like a hacks restart or something? Oh, well, what's going on here? Because Goofball is responding to Philip7086's win post by saying, fuck you, Phil. Seriously, fuck you. Class act bull motherfucking shit. Go do this in an individual tournament, not screw over your fucking team. It is fucking Pokemon God. Yeah, so you're like, okay, well, someone got screwed over here. What happened? Emotions running high in Pokemon tournaments is nothing new, of course, but that's not what makes this interesting. It's the series of events that really makes this fascinating. But for now, we still don't know what is going on. Oh, here we are. Here's that post by Gene. Quoting an IRC log from Mop. So, apparently, Ladybug beat Phil, but felt bad about lucking him, so he gave him the win. To which Gene appropriately responds, "What the shit?" So I think it speaks for itself how horrible this is. But just in case, because sometimes you get wrapped up in your own little solipsistic world of assuming everyone knows how competitive Pokemon tournaments work. But even if you don't play competitive Pokemon, it's like, oh well, it's a team tournament thing, right? Well, it's like, and then some people don't really have interest in competitions and tournaments, which is totally fine, of course, healthy even. So basically, in the world of competitive Pokemon, there's always going to be luck, obviously. But so when your teammate wins by luck, you are like, oh, hell yeah. Obviously you want your teammate to be good enough to not need it, but if it comes down to, losing and playing better, or, playing worse but getting the win because of luck, then you take the luck win every single time. Because it's not just about you. If it's an individual tournament, it's still not something you really want to do because it, screws with the spirit of the competition. Like, let's say you feel bad about, lucking someone else, and then you give them the win, and then they go on to luck a bunch of other people. It's stuff like that can get really messy. So generally, it's best just to say, yeah, okay, it sucks. I don't want to win that way, but all you can do is, what you can control. So if you play well, then someone will see, okay, well, they got very lucky, but they're playing well, so anyway. But in a team tournament, then when your team is depending on you and you have the win, and then you decide, oh, well, I don't like how I won, I don't like that I got lucky, I'm going to give that win away. And, put it this way, people go ballistic enough when a teammate of theirs has a very easy win and then proceeds to inexplicably choke it away. It gets to the point where people have genuinely said, myself included, I think certain levels of chokes in tournaments are ban-worthy. And that's something you say in the heat of the moment. I would not actually mean that, but it can be so blood-boiling to see a player that is otherwise so competent just suddenly give a game away. It's like, all right, great. Every battle in this series matters, how many series go down to tiebreakers or are won by, a one-game margin, that kind of thing. It's like, you can't, if you have a win, that's perfect. You can't just, and when that should-be win just gets given away because of, your player choking, that can be the worst. It's like, what were you thinking? And then, the teammate goes, oh, well, I don't know what I was thinking, LOL, sorry. That's bad enough. But if you have the win and then you decide, no, I'm going to give it to the other guy because I feel bad or something, then this is the only time I've ever seen this in a team tournament, because again, individual, do whatever the hell you want, even though actually don't do it now, because you will get banned for it, because it screws with the spirit of the competition. So yeah, that's also important. But back then you wouldn't get banned for it. But in a team tournament where your teammates are relying on you and you have that win and you just decide, no, I don't want it, that is incomprehensible. So that's the first piece of this amazing story. So Ladybug gives away the win after, because of luck or, whatever. I don't have the log. I have not seen the battle in question, so I don't know what happened. But either way, it doesn't matter if, Ladybug led off with, Volcarona and crit his way through 6 Volcarona counters or something, or if it was just like a last turn, or whether it didn't matter at all, but whatever. And here we see a post from Hitmonlee saying, I would be so pissed if someone on my team did that. I think everyone would be absolutely furious. And here you see Ladybug saying, I guess I'm a bad teammate, which, yeah, I was not on Ladybug's team, but, or any team this year, actually. But if someone on my team did this, or like, not only did this, but then said this, I know we can all get a little too invested in Pokemon sometimes, but this would send my blood pressure through the roof. Yeah. So then Goofball responds with, I'm glad you see that, Ladybug. Yeah. And then here is another Oceania player saying, basically summing it up with, I've hacked people before, I never gave them the win, nor would I expect anyone else to do the same for me. I understand Ladybug was just trying to do the right thing, but Pokemon is a game of luck. Yeah, of course. Oh, here's Ladybug saying, to be honest, I mainly did it to see Mop's reaction and kind of because he should have won. Neither of which are good reasons, of course. If you really just don't give a shit, then okay. But, 13 years later, obviously we're laughing at it, but you put yourself in the shoes of that of Team Asia on that day, and you just, yeah. Which is also weird, because Mop is his own teammate, but, yeah. Goofball asking Jackal, can we still remove a player from our team? That's funny. But that's not where it really erupts. Alright, so here's Jackal was the tournament host. So basically he sums it up by saying, Ladybug had Philip 786 defeated, but decided to forfeit the match before it actually completed. This is the player's decision, and for that reason I cannot reverse it since the battle never actually ended. Or if you want to say it literally, then yes, he forfeited. So technically Philip 786 did win. Jackal, while maybe this is maybe understandable in an individual tournament, and again, this is 13 years ago, nowadays it definitely would not be, inexcusable in a team tournament as your individual decision affects the whole team. Given the importance of team play in this tournament, I am allowing Team Asia to remove Ladybug from their team completely if they so wish, as I know I would not want a cancer like this on my team. So, spoken with Asia and have decided to remove him from the roster for his behavior. Gene, aka G80, will take Ladybug's roster spot, but is not allowed to play since he was not on the original 12. IK is being subbed in for Air Blacknell, aka Mop, and Simjar is being subbed in for Ladybug. So, the reason, he's not allowed to play unless all their other subs are used first, which is a tournament-wide rule involving people not being able to use people on the original 12 before all the original 12 have been subbed in. So, and that is relevant because G80 will be subbed in later in this video. Yeah. Why does Phil keep the win? And Loneliness responds, in the most literal sense of the word, he won. Goof here seeing, getting angry, obviously. Or still angry, but this is not even the apex of anger. So, another old Smogon thing I have to... Wow, there's a lot of deleted posts here. Do we click on them? Are these going to be safe for work? Oh, yeah, that is... Yeah, this is a pretty vicious back and forth. Good lord. Yeah, okay, different internet times. Anyway, better than mop reaction. Okay, so now here Goofball telling someone else to go complain about Pokemon moves missing. Sure, the wall would like to listen. And here we have Ladybug saying this is better than Mop's reaction. And Goofball saying, look, the piece of shit himself. Hello, shitbug. Okay, so you cannot see this on the screen. So, again, if you're not watching, then this does not really matter anyway. But basically, another thing you used to be able to do on Smogon was change your name. I think you had like 3 name changes or something. And nowadays you need an admin to do it for you. But you could just change your name, whenever you felt like it. And so, out of anger, then Goofball, on July 2nd, 2011, changed his username to, and I swear to God I'm not making this up, it was literally Ladybug is a piece of shit. No spaces. And I guess the admins were fine with it, or didn't care, because they allowed him to keep it for a few days, to my recollection. Or they thought it was funny, I guess. But yeah, so just imagine now this whole forum exchange between Ladybug and Goofball, and like everyone else's Goofball, is no longer between Ladybug and Goofball, but between Ladybug and Ladybug is a piece of shit. Yeah, another deleted cat guy. Oh, yeah. So then here's a big mop post. This is a, whole vat of anger being spilled, so I won't delve into it too much. But it's mostly, yeah, me and Goof do, shady under the table illegal activities, cheating, whatever. Which, that's a whole other debate. Like, oh, well, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. But yeah, when you fucking over your own teammates, I agree, is obviously horrible. And then there's this whole thing. This post he makes I resonate with because it's easy to take the, get on your high horse and go, oh, how could you ever, care so much about internet Pokemon? And when you get invested in this kind of tournament, then, and the people in it, then it is totally natural to care. And that's not a bad thing. Obviously, you can overdo it for sure. But generally, people do care and then act like they don't and make fun of other people for caring because they're insecure about, oh, I shouldn't care about this. So then that's why there is an all caps, explosion of rage here. Yeah. So again, I have linked in the pinned comment this thread for those who would like to peruse at their own leisure. Yeah, and here's Schofield saying, nice name change, Goof. And that is referring to, again, the username being Ladybug is a piece of shit. But that's still not the end of it. I think that's basically it. In terms of the forum posts. Yeah, okay, so I don't know when it happens. Oh, yeah, here's another post from Goof. Mexico hacks, people whine, Ladybug is a piece of shit. There we go. Yeah, so the way the story concludes is that Asia does use all their other subs, and then G80... Hang on, I wonder if I can find it in this thread. Search this thread by Gene... Yeah, so July 18th, Gene subs in Gene, and then he wins versus Kefka. And I do not have the log of this. I really wish I did. But what was special about this was that, God, the Renly Baratheon avatar just lends this so much more humor. Yeah, so what was special about this was the fact that, remember, this is Black and White 1, and remember how earlier I mentioned Team Superman? I'm pretty sure I mentioned it. Surely I did. See, it's the lore of the day. Yeah, if I didn't mention it, then Goof was an advanced player, and he was one of the best, and he was known for spamming the Superman team. And he features in my, he and Gene both feature in my Superman and Advanced OU video, because there is a legendary battle between them, both using Team Superman. So you can go check that video out if you would like more on that lore. Yeah, so what was hilarious about this was that this is a black and white 1 tournament, and Gene just brought Team Superman. As in, he took the advanced team, Superman, Tyranitar, Zapdos, Flygon, Skarmory, Swampert, Aerodactyl. He changed the generation to black and white, complete with, CB, Rock Slide, Aerodactyl, not Stone Edge. And then he just, brought it to black and white 1, and he won. So, yeah, and there is forum confirmation of this. It was glorious, yes. Metro 3 game. Gene used an advanced team. There it is. All right, so that's all the lore here. Thank you guys so much for watching/listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.